You invest and you pour into your children, and maybe you don't see the reward. Maybe your children are older, they're adults, and you're pouring in and you're pouring in like, oh gosh, I'm not seeing it. And I want you to understand what God is saying here through Boaz here. He says that God will reward you for the things you have done. You will see the fruit of that. Maybe not now, maybe not in the immediate sense, but eventually you will see. When you invest yourself in doing good and in raising your children, pouring into them, you will reap the fruit eventually. Do not grow weary in doing good. What is a kinsman redeemer? This is an important concept, and it is the main theme of Ruth. The theme of Ruth is that here was a woman who lost everything, but her husband had land in Israel. How does she reclaim that land? Well, God had provided for such occasions in the law how to reclaim that land, and it was through the levirate marriage law. Let me give you a little example. Just recently I got an email, and it was from Japan. It was a Japanese lawyer, and he said to me, my name is so-and-so, I can't remember the name, but it has come to our attention that there is a $2 billion inheritance that is in our bank that someone with the last name Jinzera had died and left, and there's no next of kin. You are the only Jinzera that we have found the closest of kin. Well, that would be a lie, because my father and my aunt would have be the closest of kin. But you are the closest of kin, and we have this $2 billion reserved for you, and because you're the closest of kin, you will receive this $2 billion. Just give us your checking account number and we'll wire the money to you. I hope none of you fall for that one. But in the Bible, there was a way to reclaim that which was lost. You see, that land belonged to Elimelech's family, and by virtue it belonged to Naomi. But the only way she can get it is to remarry. But she's too old. No one's marrying her. She's got to be at least in her 50s at this point. And so the only opportunity is for Ruth to get married. And through Ruth, and maybe Naomi doesn't get anything, but at least the land will be maintained. Deuteronomy 25, 5-6 says this: if brothers dwell together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the dead man shall not be married outside the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her and take her as his wife, perform the duty of a husband's brother to her, and the first son whom she bears shall succeed to the name of his dead brother, so his name may not be blotted out of Israel. This is the concept of the kinsman redeemer. Lest Elimelech's name be blotted out and his land be sold to someone outside the family, there is an opportunity that if a brother, the next of kin, the closest of kin to Elimelech, could marry his wife, that there could be redemption of that property to buy it back, and that the inheritance will be kept. And so she encourages Ruth. She encourages Ruth to pursue this and to pursue Boaz, because through that there can be hope. Through that there can be hope. Now I want you to see something important, because it tells us a lot about Naomi. Although she was bitter and although things seemed dark, she hadn't given up. Although she felt the Lord was against her, she didn't throw in the towel. She had a strategy. And the strategy was to get Boaz to fall in love with Ruth, and that by marrying her to at least get her husband's inheritance back and to keep the name of her husband. Her two sons were dead. There was no hope, but maybe through Ruth there would be hope. John Piper comments, he says, the sheer fact that Naomi had a strategy teaches us something. People who feel like victims don't make plans. As long as Naomi was oppressed, as long as she could only say, the Almighty dealt bitterly with me, she conceived no strategy for the future. One of the terrible effects of depression is the inability to move purposefully and hopefully into the future. Strategies of righteousness are the overflow of hope. When Naomi awakens in chapter 220 to the kindness of God, her hope comes alive, and the overflow is strategic righteousness. She is concerned about finding Ruth a place of care and security, and she makes a plan. And her plan is to have Naomi marry a kinsman redeemer. Oh man, this is so important. It is so important to see that no matter how difficult life is, we must hang on to hope and strategize righteously. You see, Naomi may not have had a chance, but she figured, at least for the name of her husband, to honor the Lord in this situation. God may indeed vindicate her. And so she guides. And that's important to see, the motherly love and care and guidance of her. This is not her daughter. This is her daughter-in-law, a foreign woman. And she shows such mercy to her, and that through this, it was to bring about God's plan. Now, a few words about Ruth as well. Ruth, so much about her that we could say, I mean, the whole book is about her, and she's a tremendous character and a tremendous example for us. But one of the important things I want to talk about with Ruth is her humility. Ruth was an exceedingly humble woman. You know, it says in chapter 2:10, she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, said to him, "Why have I found favor?" He said, "Why should you take notice of me? I am a foreigner." 6, so she went down to the threshing floor and did as her mother-in-law commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And she came softly and covered his feet and lay down. And at midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And she said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And it was true that I am a redeemer, and there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight. In the morning he will redeem you. Good, let him do it. But if he was not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down till the morning." She was a humble woman. There's a lot of descriptions for humility, but one of my I've said many things about humility. Humility is being teachable, right? A proud person is not teachable. A humble person is someone who doesn't think low of themselves, but doesn't think of themselves. They put others before themselves. But there's another characteristic of humility that's so important that's on display here. Humility is the exact opposite of entitlement. And I think this is an important encouragement for young women, especially as they seek to be married. You know, Proverbs 31:30, charm is deceitful, beauty is in vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And when you fear the Lord, you'll be humble. And when you're humble, you're going to attract the right kind of guys. I say this to single women, right? That's the kind of guy you want to attract. You want to attract a godly, righteous man. That humility is the first thing that's going to impress, not your clothing, not your hair, not your beauty. No, what will impress a godly man is a godly woman who fears God and is humble. Now, make no mistake about it. Ruth may be humble, but she's very strong. She's very courageous, and she takes initiatives, but she is meek. So being humble does not mean not being courage. But I could tell you this much. It is a sense of entitlement that is not only the undoing of so many people in our society, but will undo you before the eyes of God. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble, and we see that on display. Now I'm just going to wrap up the rest of the book, chapter 4, and I'm just going to summarize for you. Boaz promised that he would redeem her, and he did. Look at chapter 4, verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth, she became his wife. He went into her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the woman said, now here's the important thing, right? Because we're looking at Boaz and Naomi. They're kind of like in the middle here, but we're getting back to Naomi. It started with Naomi. It ends with Naomi. And the women said to Naomi, chapter 4:14, "Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him." And Naomi took the child, laid him on her lap, and became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood gave him a name, saying, "A son has been born to Naomi." And they named him Obed. And he was the father of Jesse, the father of David. Praise God. Her story ended better than it started. I want you to see this because I want to give hope to the hopeless today, right? The point of this sermon is that maybe some of you are out there and you're feeling a little hopeless. Maybe you're feeling a little bitter. Maybe life has thrown some curveballs at you. And I'm guaranteeing your life is not half as bad as Naomi's was. But it wasn't the end of her story. Her story wasn't written. It wasn't finalized. She hadn't gotten to the final chapter. And when you get to the final chapter, years down the road, it all turned around. She was blessed. But see the bigger picture here? Her grandson was no ordinary grandson. Her grandson would become the grandfather of King David, who was the progenitor of King Jesus. By the way, you get back to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 1, and guess who's included in Jesus' genealogy? Ruth, a Moabite, a foreigner. And so it was through the bitterness and the difficulty of Naomi's life that God not only brought about good things in the end of her life, but brought about the messianic line. And by the way, Elimelech, her husband, is actually a descendant of Rahab, another foreigner, another pagan who God included into the line of Christ. God has a remarkable way of doing things, doesn't he? God's ways are much higher than our ways. His thoughts are much higher than our thoughts. Who can know the mind of the Lord? And so what is the takeaway here? Well, there's two. Number one, don't grow weary in doing good. Hope in God, because you will one day again praise him. God will restore the joy of your salvation to you. But there's another important fact here that I cannot overlook. The bigger picture here is, while the circumstances might have been horrible, the bigger picture here is that God was bringing about a plan to bring the Messiah into the world. Boaz is a foreshadow of Jesus Christ, who is the ultimate kinsman redeemer. You see, because like Naomi, like Ruth, we are all without an inheritance. We are all destitute. We are all broke. We are all hopeless. We have lost everything in terms of our place with God, in terms of our inheritance as kings and queens who rule this earth as we were intended to be. When Adam and Eve fell, we lost it all. And only someone could redeem us who is related to us. And that is why the Son of God became flesh and dwelt amongst us. He became our brother. He became our kinsman. He became like us so that he could go to the cross and pay the price to redeem us.